Hey, my name is Matthew Hollis from 365 Films. Basically what I do is I watch and review a film a day for 365 days. The film I watched today on day 20 was Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. So long title, but it's Stanley Kubrick. So it's directed by Stanley Kubrick, and basically this film really is really incredible satire, and if you guys know anything about Stanley Kubrick, he is a master filmmaker, and he is my favorite director. So this film in particular, Peter Sellers, that is pretty much the main actor, I believe he plays 4 different roles in this film, does an incredible job right off the bat. Obviously, it's a Stanley Kubrick film, so you guys can expect incredible cinematography and incredible lighting and shots. But what's really cool about Stanley Kubrick is how much detail he puts in every single one of his shots. You know, they call him almost like the painting filmmaker, because you could freeze frame almost any part of his films and you have like something that looks like a painting, because he has such a meticulous amount of work that goes into every single shot that he takes in his films. And Dr. Strangelove is of course, it's a perfect example of that, especially in the war room and stuff like that. So basically I'll go through a quick synopsis of what Dr. Strangelove is about. Basically it takes place in the Cold War, and it's right after World War II. And of course, the 2 superpowers at the time, Russia, or the Soviet Union, and the United States. And we were really close multiple times to it becoming an all-out nuclear war. So what did Stanley Kubrick do in that time in the 60s? He made a film satirically showing what that looked like. And the miscommunication that happened in the film was pretty funny. The film is a dark comedy, so kind of in the vein of the Coen brothers and stuff like that. And a lot of the jokes really aren't funny, but they're funny, right? You know, it's stuff that you go, man, that wouldn't be good if that happened, but it is kind of funny. And the miscommunication that they have. So basically there's this army sergeant, or not army sergeant, high-ranking official, and he starts to go crazy. So he sends plans out we basically have bombers flying around all the time. They're getting fueled in the air around Russian airspace, just in case if we World War III broke out, or the Cold War actually went full front into an actual war. And we basically have planes flying around all the time waiting for orders to drop nuclear weapons. And so this guy goes crazy, and he's one of the only few people that can send out the codes to initiate a nuclear strike. So in doing that, he sends out the codes, and all these planes get the codes, and there's 17,000 different codes, so they can't really pinpoint where the codes came from or anything like that. So it further pushes on to him kind of they finally figure out who did it, and he barricades himself in and tries everything he can, because he just wants to destroy the Soviet Union. He actually believes that they're contaminating the water and making Americans dumber. And so in that process, he's obviously insane, but it's the Cold War, anything can happen, with all the espionage and stuff going on at the time. And what's really cool about Dr. Strangelove is it takes place in a time where this is actually going on. The film was made in the 1960s, so we're talking about Stanley Kubrick making a film on the exact time that this is happening, which is actually pretty rare for these films, because you're pointing a finger at the exact problem that's going on at the time. And a lot of films do not have the courage to pull that off. And before this, Stanley Kubrick had done Paths of Glory, which was kind of like that as well, where it was kind of not exactly satirical, but it was more of showing an agenda or stuff like that, even as far as back as World War II or World War I. If you guys haven't seen that film, you could pick out any Stanley Kubrick film and watch it. They're all amazing. But Dr. Strangelove is a lot different than his other films. It's not really It's obviously, like I said, more satirical. It's more in the comedy side, and there's a lot of stuff going on that are maybe pushed a little further than you would expect. Some of the jokes and stuff that are said, and they're not even jokes; they're just people talking. But it's funny because you're like, that would never happen, but it could have, and that's the thin line that we were on at the time in the Cold War. And so, like I said, the acting in this film is incredible. Peter Sellers plays 4 different people, including Dr. Strangelove, and he does amazing. Just like any other Kubrick film, there's actually a particular shot where they were trying to get the general that had sent these orders out, and he was barricaded in with a gun shooting, and they sent an army to go in and try to get him out so they can get the plans and stop this nuclear attack from happening. Because if the nuclear attack happens on Russia, Russia informs the United States that you can't even if it was one nuclear weapon, that they have a doomsday machine or a doomsday device. And basically, if there was a strike on Russian soil, this device will go off. And I believe they said it's the size of 50 hydrogen nuclear bombs. So it would wipe out all life on the planet. I believe it only takes 10 to 15 nuclear weapon strikes at the hydrogen level to end all life on this planet, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, especially how many people have nuclear weapons. But that's the line that we were on at the time, and obviously it was really scary. I didn't grow up in the Cold War era, but my parents have, and obviously there was a bunch of stuff. And there was a film that recently came out called Bridge of Spies by Steven Spielberg that kind of delved more into the Cold War as well and what it was all about. But the hiding under the desks and showing like what would you do in a nuclear strike, like you could do anything. But you know, there was that whole panic and fear aspect of it. So for Stanley Kubrick to take that and then kind of turn it and make it satirical at the time when it was happening is pretty incredible. And obviously he's in my opinion, he was the best filmmaker to ever have lived, up there with Alfred Hitchcock and even some of the directors that are still alive, like Steven Spielberg and them. But if you guys have not seen Dr. Strangelove, I believe it's streaming right now, and obviously this video will become outdated. But it's streaming right now on Amazon Video, or Amazon Prime if you guys have it. So definitely watch Dr. Strangelove, because it's one of those films, it's not long, an hour and 30 minutes, and you will get something out of it, just like any Stanley Kubrick film. He's delving into a lot of things more past the film, and his films are always films I feel like when you get done watching them, you're still thinking about them, or you're still thinking about something that possibly happened in them and stuff like that. But anyways, with that said, thank you guys so much for getting on here, and I actually have a question for you guys. In this video description on Facebook or on YouTube, I would love for you guys to comment and say what your favorite film director is. I said mine is Stanley Kubrick, so I would love for you guys to go out and tell me what your guys' favorite film directors are, and I would love to watch films from them. So thank you so much, guys, for sharing this out, and thank you so much for getting on here and hearing my film review of Dr. Strangelove. I'll have another review for you guys tomorrow, and I appreciate your guys' support. Thank you.